Hey everybody, best friend here. This is a bit of a spur of the moment video I'm making today on Spellforce, and it's not a particularly fun video today. There's only 2 videos on this channel. This is the second one, but for those of you who are watching this video or those of you who know me, I am one of the only Spellforce content creators in terms of people who put stuff out in the community. So I figured it would be important to just have my thoughts on the announcement that went out today from MetaPlays. For those of you who are unfamiliar with MetaPlays, it is a RTS gaming company spearheaded by Nakamura, who is also one of the largest Spellforce content creators that this community has seen. And Nakamura has been extremely dedicated to this game, and today MetaPlays, alongside Nakamura, made an announcement saying that they are indefinitely suspending any and all Spellforce tournaments moving forward. I will link the full article description below, so check that out if you want to read the whole post. But essentially, they're not seeing any growth with their numbers. Of the 3 games they play, all of which are pretty small communities, Spellforce is by far and away the worst performing, and this is just because there's no growth happening right now. Not only is there no growth, the player base is actively shrinking and dying, and what they said tripped them over the edge to cancel and indefinitely postpone this is they had less than 16 people sign up for a $200 tournament. And to be honest, I hadn't signed up yet either. In fact, I haven't played Spellforce in about a month here. And I kind of wanted to just talk about that a little bit. This video is not a rant. This video is just sort of my personal journey with Spellforce, sort of what I've seen, what I'd like to see for the future, and hopefully where this game can go. I do think this game does have a potential, a future, but I would like to voice sort of what I think needs to change if this game is not just going to be abandonware on the multiplayer side. So I just kind of wanted to talk about my journey with this game, because this is the first game I ever streamed. This is the first game I've ever made any amount of content for. This is a hobby for me, but I have over 160 followers on Twitch, and almost all of those came from playing Spellforce. It feels kind of cool to have played a game that I didn't know anything about 18 months ago and have a small community of people. I've thrown my own tournament. I've played in tournaments. I've casted with some of the other community members. It's been a really fun ride. I started streaming. My very first game I ever streamed was Spellforce. And so, as someone who played the game, took a break before Reforced, came back with a fervor after Reforced came out, and now is taking a break again, what's going on? The ultimate answer is that this is a hobby for me, right? I'm not a full-time streamer. This is something I do for fun. This is something I do because I enjoy it, not because it makes me money, not because it's a career choice. It's just for fun. It's very difficult to, for fun, log on to a game, not get a match for 45 minutes, and then rely on the community of people that I've built up around here to say, hey, we'll play games with you. And then to play against the same handful of people over and over. That's only so fun for so long. Spellforce is a hard game. There are 6 factions. I only play one of them, as all of you know, but there's 6 factions. There's a lot of moving parts, and it's not particularly fun with a 95% degree of accuracy to walk into a game and know if you're going to win or lose it when that's every game you play, right? If I play a game versus, some of the best players, I know I'm going to lose, and I do. I don't think I've ever won a game that I'm pretty confident I'm going to win. And if I play against a newer player or someone who doesn't play a lot, I'm pretty confident I'm going to win with a 95% accuracy. So it's frustrating from that experience, right? If I'm gonna take some of my time in an afternoon or an evening after work and I'm gonna turn on stream, how often can I do that before I don't want to do that anymore, right? Let me paint you an alternate scenario, because I think some people are going to say, well, I mean, other people do it and it's fine. Let me paint you another picture. If I were to play any other game, right? If instead of playing Spellforce, I were to play any other game, here's what my streaming experience could be. I'm going to log on to the game. I'm going to click Go Live on my OBS, and then I'm going to click Find a Game. And then I'm, within a couple minutes, matched to a person at my bracket. We play a game. I win, I lose, whatever. The game ends. Either hooray, we won, or aw man, we lost and I have something to learn from. And then I hit the button again. That game goes through, I play through it, and then I hit the button again. You see, that's basically how I wanted to be streaming this game. I didn't want to stream this game, you know, having to come up with ways to make the game fun for me. People often are asking, well, switch factions. Why don't you play campaign? Why don't you do journey mode? The answer is I don't want to. I want to sit down and I want to play a 1v1 skirmish, and I want to play humans because I want to play humans. That's what I want to do. I've played them when they were bad. I've played them when they were OP. That's what interests me, is playing that faction. So I guess what I'm getting at is I don't want to have to find my own fun with this game. And recently that's felt like what it's been. And that sort of is pivoting to some of my frustration. And I want to put a disclaimer out here. This is not directed at any particular developer. This is not any person's fault. But it is a general frustration with sort of how poorly this game has been neglected. There is a small but passionate community that wants to see this game succeed. There is an investment that was made by THQ Nordic and Grimoire Games to make a multiplayer part of this game. They've released patches, there's a map, there's a ladder system. But the fact that there was very little fanfare pushing the game's multiplayer aspect, there's been very little sort of post-launch support in growing or cultivating a future player base. Cross-platform connectivity just isn't there. So you have people who are wanting to play multiplayer, they buy the wrong version, then sorry, those games are dead on arrival. You have to know to buy the Steam version. The game is just not received any amount of post-launch support outside of MetaPlays, who was the biggest organization to touch this game, or some bozo like me, 150 Twitch follower throwing a $100 tournament. Like, that's the amount of support that this game has received post-launch, and it's frustrating that a game would receive a multiplayer, would receive attention from the game devs that this is a mode that should be played because it's right there when you open the game, you click on it, and it just feels like it's been dead on arrival. And the only thing pumping any amount of life into it is members of the community working really hard to keep the game alive. And I commend each and every one of you who's done that, because I think this game is special. It's the first RTS I've played in a long time that I've gotten excited about. I made a 20-minute strategy video on a YouTube page that I didn't create. I made a YouTube channel based off the Twitch channel I made to play this game. I really enjoy it. But the fact that none of us can play this game because the ladder is dead, because player base is dead, because we don't have dedicated servers, because there's been no post-launch support in the form of advertising or communication about what's going on, or we haven't gotten a roadmap in how long. It's frustrating to see such potential wasted. And that's where I kind of want to pivot to the end of this video, because I don't want to ramble for too long. I can talk about this forever. I don't want this video to be a million years long. It's probably already gonna be like 10 minutes. But I do want to say I think this game has potential. Spellforce 3 is a really good game. I think the multiplayer's solid. The factions are interesting. There's flavor there. There's context. There's decisions to make. We're finding more and more that there are strategies that people can do that are interesting. You can pick different factions. We see really interesting counter picking going on. Game balance is getting better. We are approaching a game that's competitive and fun and interesting. Where's the support? I think with some amount of support to this game from the developer side, from the publisher side, looking at THQ Nordic from the publisher side, why are we letting this game just die on the vine? I'm just frustrated, I guess, and that's why I wanted to make this video, is because this is right now, this is putting Spellforce into cryo sleep. The ladder's dead. There's no tournaments to look forward to anymore. There's no influx of players other than people who stumble across it on Steam. I'm just sad to see it go down like this. One more thing I wanted to point out. Starting tomorrow, there is a $120,000 play-in for Age of Empires 4. Age of Empires 4, which was not well received on launch, has been receiving multiple criticisms from its community for very poor balance, for very poor decision making by the developers, terrible internet connectivity, issues with hotkeys, issues with lag, is receiving a $120,000 tournament. This is a Microsoft game on Game Pass. I know that the money's there. I know that we're not comparing the same game. But what I'm saying is that's what Spellforce is competing against in terms of quality. I think Spellforce is a better game than Age of Empires 4. There's very few RTS games that have come out in the last decade that have interested me and a lot of other people. RTS games are fundamentally what I grew up with. They're games I've always loved. They're games I've always looked for. And I've looked for something that I could play with the same vigor that I played Kane's Wrath back in the day, StarCraft 2 when it first came out in Wings of Liberty, all the way back to the original Command & Conquer, which is the very first video game I ever played. And Spellforce was the first one to ever even touch that. And I'm really sad to see it going into stasis. The THQ Nordic guys who see this and the Grimlore guys who see this, you have a great game here. I really sincerely hope you reconsider your overall strategy for how you're handling the multiplayer, and you do what you can to revive it. I think it would be worth your time. Thanks, everybody.